Good afternoon, and thank you for sticking around. Please come out, everybody. You're going to be glad that you did, because we're really going to get into the detail of what are the success patterns of data-driven, because I've listened to a number of the sessions this afternoon, and there's been a lot of very useful discussion, but we want to go deeper. And we think you're here because you actually want to get some new insights based on the experience from our panel. So we have Nacho from Barcelona. I'll let everybody introduce themselves a little bit in their businesses in a moment. José with Alto Analytics, and Antonio from Decathlon. And Antonio in particular has been at Decathlon for 18 years, basically driving innovation and sort of agile methodology, so he has quite a long time perspective to show about how the organization has evolved. In my case, my company basically manages a lot of loyalty program transactions between partners. So if you want to earn Avios from Iberia when you stay at Hilton, our company processes a lot of those transactions with the loyalty points between different loyalty programs. And so we have access to a massive amount of data because we work with Lufthansa and Melia Hotels and Visa International and Etihad Airways. And it's the data that allows our partners to make much better decisions on how to engage with their customers. And it's actually the combination of data from a customer who might fly from Barcelona to London on Ryanair, but then they stay in a five-star hotel. Well, Ryanair thinks that person is a Ryanair person, and of course the five-star hotel thinks they're a five-star hotel person. But it's only when you can combine the data about whether they put premium gasoline in their car, whether they are buying gas or buying coffee in Munich, but they didn't fly to Munich on Vueling, that you can start to understand how much share of wallet you're getting, what the customer's lifestyle preferences are. So anyway, data-driven analytics is very important, and these patterns allow us to really serve customers better. So we're going to focus on the title with the keywords being success patterns. And so in the context of defining success patterns, perhaps, Antonio, you can describe some of your experience with Decathlon and how that's evolved with the culture over time, and especially being such an international organization.
It's a long time. Well, I'll try to do it. Yes, I think in our case it's very important to know that that culture that should be associated with the data, it's also shaped in the way we are organized and the values that we have in the company. We are sporting people, and we are very vital, and we have a way in which the responsibility is very distributed. And it's in this way since a long time. And that shapes also the way in which we need to use the data, because once you decide that you need to distribute the decision, you have to put all the data available for everybody. And even from the very beginning, everybody in the stores, everybody in any point in the company has had access to all the available data, even if the variety maybe it should be restricted to all the commercial KPIs and that kind of things. But everybody could have information about the figures of the sport, the figures in the store, and not only the store manager, but also not only also the department manager, but everybody in the store could have access to that information in order to make the better decisions based on data. And I'm not speaking of today, it's from the very beginning of the Decathlon project. But once you advance in digitization, and then start to appear new channels, we are speaking of omnichannel, the digital commerce, then new KPIs, and a huge amount of data. Then I don't remember who is the physics who said one time, it's the size what matters, and more is different. And more is different means that even if we have the same culture, so very distributed way to make decisions and wide availability to the data, we need to increase that possibilities to use and take advantage of the data to do all the works around the commerce and everything. So to put you an example regarding this is, once you decide that everybody should be making decisions with data, you need to adapt your system, your ecosystem, and your tools to make this possible. Typically, if you want to communicate with your users using a digital campaign, you need to send an email marketing campaign. And usually, this is centralized. In our cases, this is also very distributed. So any store, any cellule or on the company can eventually produce and send and deliver an email marketing campaign. And this is only possible if you distribute also the tools along the company and distribute the data to make it accessible.
Yeah, that sounds great. In fact, I think Decathlon in this respect is quite unique in the world in that their culture's always been, distribute the data and give basically everybody access to the data. So the decision-making is also quite distributed. Most organizations or departments that like to hoard the data. And Jose, for example, perhaps you can introduce yourself in Alto Analytics, but because you've worked in Asia and Europe with a lot of different organizations, perhaps you can describe maybe some differences where many organizations might have specific teams that are responsible for managing the decisions based on the data.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, we are Alto Data Analytics. We are a big data company that analyzes mainly what we call the digital public sphere. So what's the digital public sphere? That's what everybody says in internet, in social media, in comments to news, in the news itself, anything that is digitally available out there. We analyze it and we turn it into something meaningful for our clients. We work for large organizations, and most of the time what they want to understand is different things, right? Different departments have different needs, and departments might want to know, based on what people are saying out there, what do they think about our products? Or what do they think about this trend? Or what's happening with this trend? And more, what is happening, even what is going to happen in the next elections. So the beauty of the digital public sphere is that it's a huge sample, a huge data set, that once you analyze it, you can get a lot of insight out of that, right? Before you used to run surveys to understand what people thought about different issues. Now you can really get what's going on up there and then turn it into something that responds to a key research question. So we work for large organizations, many large corporations, but also organizations such as UN or OECD and some others, where we analyze, again, public sphere in many different aspects. One of the things that we've been doing recently a lot is analyzing disinformation. So because disinformation, these things that we all know is putting at danger democracies, right? We have people disinforming things. It has an effect on the democracy, but it also has an effect on things like vaccines, so on your health, right? There is a lot of disinformation around vaccines, right? The good things about analyzing the huge social debate is that you can map patterns and understand patterns associated to disinformation. So you are able to tap who is disinforming, which are the vulnerable groups that are being attacked, and what are the questionable sources so that you can do something about it, right? So that's the thing that we are able to do. And just to answer to the key questions.
So the patterns that you tend to see at these clients that either don't work or that tend to work well, and then they repeat the patterns.
This is the beauty of the thing that we do. And we always say, as a key success factor for a big data project for us, the key question is always once you have a data set, I mean, the difficult part is not to get the data. The difficult part is what do you want to get out of the data, right? Is what question do you ask the data? The good thing is also that with big data technologies, you are able to process huge volumes of data very quickly, to do complex visualizations, and to iterate very quickly, which enables you to discover new things and then dig into what's there, right? So that's why, in our view, we combine technology, but we also always say this sentence of big data needs big brains, right? You need people to make sense out of that data and link it and map it to a critical business issue for our client, right? So once you know what you want to get out of data, then you take your capabilities and make it work.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Nacho, you started Spaceboost about 2 years ago to basically leverage data. But even from your early 20s, you've been involved in digital marketing and managing multiple channels of customer acquisition and conversion rates and all of that. So maybe you can give a little bit of an introduction about yourself and your business, and then give us some examples or, based on your experience over the last 10 or 12 years.
Sure, thank you. You hear me well? Yeah. So yes, I'm quite young, I guess. We started in 2005 working in digital advertising in a big, huge media agency. And at that time, I realized the way the people spend their money in advertising. We're coming from a quite dark world. Now we're going more to a financial world, transparent world, based on that data, where no one can lie at the end because data says the truth always. You throw through data. And what we do actually is, okay, you have the data, you analyze the data, and you understand the data behavior, and we take actions. We execute changes. Us, ourselves, we started in 2014, and we lead a team of 80 people in 4 cities, managing an annual advertising spend of around 150 million euros, pretty focused in Google search. And just to give a clear example, when you use technology to automate data management, you always take 3 things. You can manage larger volumes of data, and you can think about any disruptive technology in the history. I mean, even when Gutenberg invented the print, for example, he was capable to manage more data, take fast decisions, and more precise decisions, more accurate decisions. And this is what we get. If you apply this disruption to advertising, at the end, advertising is an equation between product, price, placement, and promotion. So it's about finding the best message, the best ad to the right audience, and I mean even the smallest audience, and at the right price, at the price that makes advertiser save more or sell more, depending on the profit and losses desire of the company. So you get a better user experience, a better advertiser experience, and a better manager of the account experience. Real example, let's say Decathlon manages thousands of products. Let's say you want to change the price of a product live. We change the price live in the ad. Let's say you have a new product. You don't need to send an email to your agency or to your account manager, hey, this is the new product. No, we read the data right from your database, and we execute all these kind of changes. We select the audience, we stop the campaign, we pause the campaign, we reactivate the campaign. Let's say we double the campaign to a specific town in Spain because we have seen that that little town has a different conversion ratio. And what happens if you have a different conversion ratio? You can pay less or more because conversion ratio and your target cost per acquisition cost need to be adapted, maybe live, like an economic evolution in life. So we automate all these things.
Okay, and I suppose that you can generate a lot of your own data through A/B testing. So you can even refine your business, decision-making skills based on the results of very specific tests. Do you have any examples about that?
Well, let's say you have 10,000 products, and you can use the Google technologies to optimize that kind of things, or you can get the data right from the database, analyze it, get insights from that data, and test things like, okay, what is the evolution of the curve of sales, depending on each of the changes I apply in the ad copy, in the price I pay for a click, in the kind of color I use for an ad, that kind of things. So actually, just to give you an idea, we're executing over 6 billion changes Whoa. Per day. That leads to higher click-through rates, more or less conversions, depending on what you want, any of the targets you're looking for. Because at the end, if you know where you are going, you will get there. At least you can go there. But if you don't know where you're going, you can test wherever you go, wherever you want, but at the end you will be walking around.
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you. And Jose, this question's for you, but it's actually about Decathlon. So for more than a decade, they've had quite advanced systems that collect a massive amount of data in one data store, and therefore they can interpret that data in a fairly consistent way. But I suppose you've seen many organizations that have many different silos of data spread throughout their organization. How do they either get the data into one environment where they can interpret it correctly, or if they must keep the data distributed into different databases or silos, how do they apply analytics in good patterns to be able to make sense of the data?
Yeah. In general, I think it's true that in the past, many organizations have data in different silos, right? But it's very clear that at the end, we always like to start first, if possible, get all data together, right? Today, we have the technology to do that, to do the parsing, to do connectors, to get all into the same data lake. That always has some advantages. But at the end, we like to start always with the end in mind, right? What is the key question? What is the key research question that we have? We always have like 3 different types of profiles in our team. We have the data engineers, which are the people able to manage huge volumes of data, set the data infrastructure, write the connectors, make sure that we have an architecture that can cope with data from different sources, real-time data, all the type of data sources, all the type of feeds. That's the data engineers, right? Then we have the data scientists, which are the ones that say, okay, let's see with all this data, what algorithms we can do, how we can play with it, what kind of things we can create out of that. But the most important profile of all for us is what we call the business translator. It's the guy that is able to map what is the business need, what is exactly what you want to achieve with the data. So someone is, by the way, is one of the most difficult profiles to find because it's someone that must understand the technical capabilities of big data, must understand what can be done with data and what the data scientist might be able to do. He might not be able to do it himself, but at least he knows what are the issues or the nuances of doing that. And then is the one able to map it and to link it to some specific key research question. And that is always the way we start projects with our clients. And that's why for some projects, it might be just a matter of getting an algorithm, getting some automation. Some of the times, the projects are more of a consulting thing, and then you have social scientists, people interpreting data to come with something out of it, right? Just to give you an example, yesterday we were presenting here with Fundación Telefónica and Enlighted. We presented an analysis of trends of education worldwide. So what we took is we analyzed 10 million comments from people talking about education worldwide in the last 2 months. It was not 10 million because we decided 10 million. It's because there was 10 million people talking about it, right? So we just grabbed everyone, anything that was out there talking about education, we got it. And then we're able to map on different geographies what are the key trends, the key issues. The beauty of this type of analysis, when we would do this from banking, is also very interesting, is that then they interview us as if we were experts in education. And the only thing we've done is translate what is discussed out there into what are the trends. And then it's very interesting because we've seen now the power of ideas, right? I mean, any business, any market is driven by the battle for attention on one side, as we all know in marketing, but also the battle of ideas. I mean, a few years ago, we had companies in the oil space telling us that plastic bottles were very good for climate change because, they are a plastic bottle, it's lighter than glass water. Therefore, if you have 1,000 bottles and the truck transporting 1,000, then, of course, plastic bottles are more effective. So it was a matter of energy efficiency. When a few years later, you cannot mention that anymore, right? Now we have all this trend about plastics. We have all these pictures about plastics everywhere in the seas. So the trends are there, and they move very quickly. And the good thing is that as you have all data, you can map who is initiating those trends, who are they targeting, what are the trends that are growing, what are the narratives that they are using, where are the same controversies, and then based on that, make either design a campaign or do whatever action that if you want to sell more shoes or if you want to sell water, maybe you need to change your packaging, right? So all those are the type of decisions that you can now make, not just based on guesswork or based on but based actually on data, and data that maps what people actually think, or whatever, it's your question, right?
Okay, yeah, perfect. And so, Antonio, at Decathlon, I'm sure that decision-making has evolved over the last decade. I guess my question is, how do you make sure you're asking the right questions? And then, is it dependent on people to decide what questions to ask, or is it a combination of people and then some other capabilities that you have that help you learn new questions that you should be asking of the data in order to make better decisions?
I would say that this is a combination of both. On one hand, we need, because I think thinking of patterns, I think that context is very important when you try to use data and you want to take advantage of the data to make decisions. And context you need to interpret, and it's who better than the people to interpret the data in its own context, no? In the behavior where they are working. This is what we call this is what it's called the subsidiarity principle. If you need to make a decision, the decision is better make if you are near of the effect of the decision. So that combination in which you need to leave that everybody could use the data where they can interpret the effect of the data when they need to make the decision. But on the other hand, you need to do, or in a better way, you need to be agile. Not agile in that interpretation where you need to apply methods or you need to apply a kind of ceremonies, but you need to be agile in a kind of capacity to adapt or your context. So in that way, you need some kind of skills that let you experiment, that let you learn from that experiment, that distribute that capacity to learn in a collective way. So if you combine this, so letting people that capacity to access, to explore the data, and interpret the context, to make the better decision in the context than where they are. And on the other hand, they have some, I would say, principles to experiment, to learn from the results of the experiments, and to share widely what they learn on the experiments. You have a better way to adapt and do your business and evolve the way you want to do your business. No? That kind of combination of both.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And Nacho, in your case, maybe 15 years ago, you had to rely on your own experience and education and intelligence to make decisions based on the data, of course. But you've certainly seen tools evolve to the point where now the tools are actually helping make decisions, and especially if you're managing 1 billion different, data points. How do you see this evolving over the next 2 or 3 years? Are we going to need more data scientist type people, or is the technology actually going to reduce the demand, or is the industry just going to grow so much that we're going to need more of both?
I think we talk too much, and this is very honest. I think we talk too much about artificial intelligence, big data, and all that, buzzwords that a lot of people still don't know what they mean. And maybe we sometimes just using more Google spreadsheets or even Excel with some macros maybe would be a lot helpful than a lot of other things. This is the true reality. I mean, a lot of people managing a lot of money, a lot of cash in advertising or in product buying or whatever you want, they should start doing these kind of things, obviously. Otherwise, they will die. And I'll give you an example. Last Easter, we were in San Francisco in the Google Marketing Live, and one of the VPs of Google said to all the channel sales partners, we work with them, he said, okay, you have 2 years ahead to change your whole business. Otherwise, you will die. We will guide you through these 3 ways, which are automation, data automation, data integration, so understanding sources and destinations of the data while it's transformed, and the audience's management. So this is a game about data. No doubt about that. There will be less space for creativity, which will be very strategic and the source of success for sure, but no more decisions taken on inspiration or I think it will fit or I think whatever. So, but still a lot to improve in data management for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still quite a lot of intuition that drives business decisions. Anyway, but in the interest of, I guess, joining the band, because they started 20 minutes ago, I think I'd like to leave you with one final thought. More traditional businesses have been selling products or services, and the margins on those products and services have been shrinking over time, in large part because of competition. Almost everything's a commodity now. You can find substitutes and alternatives just about everywhere. Data-driven organizations tend to understand their customers better. They find ways to add more value to the product or service. In many cases, they actually find ways to convert the product or service that they're selling into much more of a value-added capability. And that is sort of a smart thinking type organization. And as a data-driven organization evolves over time, they actually start to build a much closer relationship with their customer based on differentiation. And that type of loyalty and bond with a customer means that you can build sustainable profitability, and it's not always a race to the bottom. So, you know, we've been talking a lot about being data-driven today. Hopefully we've shared a few useful examples today. But the main reason why this is so important is that each of you need to figure out how you can add more value to your customers so that they're more tied to you over the medium to long term, and therefore you can build sustainable profitability in your own organization. So thank you very much for attending today, and hopefully it was worth your while. We'll be around for a few more minutes after the session in case you have any additional questions. Thank you.